Galactic Council Panics. The Unspoken Truth of Humanity's Silence Part 1. The Summons. The Galactic Council's Grand Chamber fell silent as the massive doors swung open. Admiral Thorne, Earth's military representative, stepped forward with measured strides, flanked by Ambassador Eliza Munro and Dr. Marcus Reed, humanity's foremost xenolinguist. Their footsteps echoed across the polished obsidian floor that seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. 5,000 representatives from across the galaxy watched from their hovering platforms, murmurs cascading through the chamber like waves. The central dais, normally reserved for species being formally welcomed to the council, today served as something closer to a tribunal. High Arbiter Vostalek, a towering figure with skin like burnished copper and 6 eyes arranged in a perfect hexagon, leaned forward, his voice amplified by the chamber's perfect acoustics carried to every corner. "Humans of Earth," he intoned, each syllable weighted with formality. "You stand before the assembled wisdom of 50,000 years. You stand before the peacekeepers of 100,000 worlds." The 3 humans remained expressionless, their posture revealing nothing. "For 3 standard cycles, your species has maintained diplomatic relations with this council," Vostalek continued. "For 3 cycles you have shared your art, your culture, your scientific advancements, and selectively." The last word hung in the air like an accusation. Yet in this time, you have declined all offers of military alliance. You have refused participation in the Unified Defense Network. You have politely rejected every invitation to join our collective security apparatus. Ambassador Munro stepped forward, her expression calm. "High Arbiter, as we have stated on 27 separate occasions, Earth maintains a policy of neutrality." "Yes." Vostalek's upper eyes narrowed. "A convenient policy when one wishes to avoid scrutiny." The chamber's illumination dimmed slightly, and behind the High Arbiter, a holographic display materialized. It showed a desolate world, its surface scarred with impact craters visible even from orbit. "This is Meridian Ford," said Vostalek. "A Taurian colony world. 3 cycles ago it was home to 12 million souls." He paused. "Today it is dead." The display shifted, showing a fleet of ships unlike any in known space, sleek, predatory vessels with hulls that seemed to drink in the starlight. "The Scourge," whispered thousands of voices in dozens of languages. "Yes," confirmed Vostalek. "The enemy that has haunted our borders for a millennium, the shadow that grows bolder with each passing year, the threat that humanity, alone among spacefaring species, seems unconcerned by." Ambassador Munro's voice remained steady. "We extend our deepest condolences to the Taurian people. High Arbiter, Earth has already dispatched humanitarian aid." "We do not require your aid, Ambassador," interrupted Vostalek. "We require answers." With a gesture, he changed the display again. Now it showed a small vessel, unmistakably of Earth design, moving through deep space. This scout ship was detected passing within sensor range of a Scourge staging area. It did not engage. It did not report its findings to the Council. It simply observed. The chamber erupted in shouts and accusations. Vostalek raised a hand and silence fell once more. "We have intercepted fragments of communications between your military outposts, references to something called Operation Silent Shield, mentions of a contingency protocol that has been in effect since before your species even joined this council." Admiral Thorne stepped forward, his weathered face impassive. For the first time since entering the chamber, he spoke. "High Arbiter, with respect, Earth's defensive protocols are not subject to council oversight. As a non-signatory to the Unified Defense Treaty, we maintain—" "This is not about treaties," Vostalek's voice thundered. "This is about survival. The Scourge grows bolder by the day. They have never penetrated this far into council space before. Something has changed." He leaned forward, all 6 eyes fixed on the humans. "Or perhaps someone has changed it." Dr. Reed, who had remained silent until now, took a small step forward. "You're accusing us of collusion with the Scourge?" "I am stating," Vostalek said coldly, "that humanity's silence regarding the greatest threat this galaxy has ever faced has become suspicious. I am stating that your species' reluctance to join our defensive alliance while maintaining a military fleet that rivals the Council's own is concerning. I am stating that we have detected energy signatures around your homeworld that match no known technology in Council space. The holographic display shifted again, showing Earth surrounded by a faint, shimmering field that pulsed with energy. "What is this?" demanded Vostalik. "What are you hiding from us?" Ambassador Monroe's diplomatic mask cracked slightly. She exchanged a quick glance with Admiral Thorne, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "High Arbiter," she said carefully, "there are aspects of Earth's defense strategy that we have not shared with the Council." "This is true, but I assure you we have never—" An alarm blared, cutting her off mid-sentence. The chamber's lights pulsed red. A council aide rushed to Vostalik, speaking urgently in his ear. The High Arbiter's 6 eyes widened in what could only be described as pure shock. "Impossible," he whispered. The holographic display changed without his command, showing a live feed from somewhere in Council space. A massive scourge fleet, hundreds of ships, had appeared without warning. "The homeworld's defense perimeter," gasped a representative. "They've bypassed every early warning system." Vostalik turned to the 3 humans, his voice low and dangerous. "Did you know this was coming?" Before any could answer, Admiral Thorne's communication device chirped. He glanced at it, then raised his eyes to meet Vostalik's gaze. "High Arbiter," he said, his voice carrying a new weight of authority. "I believe the time for Earth's silence has ended. Galactic Council panics. The unspoken truth of humanity's silence, Part 2. The revelation that Council Chamber's emergency protocols had transformed the once ceremonial space into a war room." Tactical displays hovered in the air, tracking the movements of the Scourge fleet as it pushed relentlessly toward the heart of Council space. "Our defensive fleets are mobilizing," reported Fleet Commander Jaxlor, an avian being with metallic feathers that rustled with agitation. "But they won't intercept in time. The homeworlds are vulnerable." High Arbiter Vostalik had not taken his eyes off Admiral Thorne. "You said the time for silence has ended. Explain yourself, human." Admiral Thorne's weathered face remained impassive. "High Arbiter, with your permission, I need to establish a secure link to Earth Command. This chamber is already the most secure location in Council space," Vostalik said coldly. "Not secure enough," Thorne replied. "Not for this." Something in his tone made Vostalik hesitate. Finally, he nodded. "Proceed." Ambassador Monroe stepped forward, removing a small device from her formal diplomatic attire. It was unlike any communication technology the Council had seen before, a smooth, featureless sphere that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the chamber's light. She placed it on the floor, where it hovered several inches above the surface. A beam of light shot upward, resolving into the figure of a woman in a military uniform bearing insignia unfamiliar to the Council representatives. "Admiral Thorne," the hologram acknowledged. "Ambassador Monroe, Dr. Reed." Her gaze moved to the massive form of the High Arbiter. "And you must be Vostalik. I am Fleet Admiral Kira Levine, Earth Defense Command." Vostalik's upper eyes narrowed. "Your timing is convenient, Admiral Levine. The Scourge launches its most ambitious attack in a millennium, just as your representatives are being questioned about possible collusion." "High Arbiter," Levine's voice was sharp. "We have monitored the Scourge for over 50 years, since before our first contact with your Council. We know their patterns, their capabilities, and most importantly, their origins." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "Their origins?" Vostalik's voice betrayed his surprise. "The Scourge appeared a millennium ago. They communicate with no one. They negotiate with no one. They simply destroy. And you never asked yourself why?" Dr. Reed spoke up. "You never questioned why a force so destructive would limit itself to border worlds and colonies for 1,000 years without pressing their advantage?" Fleet Admiral Levine nodded. "They were testing you, learning your responses, mapping your defensive capabilities. To what end?" demanded Vostalik. "To determine if you possessed knowledge of the architects," Levine said. The chamber fell utterly silent. That is a myth," Vostalik said, but his voice lacked conviction. "A legend from the pre-Council era." "No." Ambassador Monroe's voice was firm. "They were very real, and what they left behind is what the Scourge has been searching for." Fleet Admiral Levine continued. "When humanity began exploring beyond our solar system, we discovered something. Ruins of a civilization so advanced that their technology was indistinguishable from natural phenomena. We called them the precursors. You know them as the architects," she gestured. and her hologram was replaced by images of massive structures hidden within asteroids, buried beneath planetary surfaces, drifting in the void between stars. These installations are everywhere, hidden in plain sight. Most are dormant. Some are still active, maintaining systems whose purposes we can only guess at, but all of them are connected by a network that spans the entire galaxy. A network that has been monitoring the Scourge since they first appeared. The hologram shifted again, showing data streams and analysis that moved too quickly for most to follow. We've spent decades deciphering the Architect's records, Dr. Reed explained. The Scourge isn't a natural species. They're synthetic, created as weapons in a war so ancient that no record of the combatants remains. They were designed with one purpose, to find and destroy all traces of the Architect's technology. But why maintain silence? Vostalik demanded. Why not share this knowledge with the Council? Admiral Thorne spoke, his voice grave. Because your Council has been compromised since its founding, High Arbiter. The accusation hung in the air like a physical thing. Thousands of representatives shifted uneasily on their platforms. The being you know as Councillor Drez, Thorne continued, is not what he appears to be. On cue, the hologram showed an elderly, distinguished representative who had served on the Inner Council for over 2 centuries. Impossible, Vostalik whispered. We suspected infiltration from the moment we discovered the Architect's warning systems, Fleet Admiral Levine said. The Scourge doesn't just destroy, it subverts. It plants sleeper agents designed to monitor civilizations that might discover Architect technology. Dr. Reed stepped forward. The reason we've maintained our silence, built our separate defenses, and refused integration with Council systems is simple. We couldn't risk the Scourge discovering how much we know. Ambassador Monroe's voice was soft but carried through the chamber. Operation Silent Shield wasn't a weapon, High Arbiter. It was a quarantine, keeping our knowledge of the Architects isolated from potential Scourge infiltration. The tactical displays suddenly flashed urgent warnings. The Scourge fleet had changed course. It was no longer heading for the Council homeworlds. They're moving toward Earth, gasped Commander Jax Lore. Admiral Thorne's expression didn't change. No, they're moving toward what orbits Earth, the last fully functional installation of the Architect's defense network. Fleet Admiral Levine's hologram reappeared. High Arbiter, we're activating the shield now, but we need the Council's help for what comes next. Why would we help you after these deceptions? Vostalik demanded. Because, Levine said grimly, what we're about to do will either save this galaxy or destroy it, and you deserve the chance to prepare your people for either outcome. As she spoke, new alerts flashed across the tactical displays. Something massive was emerging from hyperspace near Earth. Not Scourge ships, but something else entirely. What is that? Vostalik whispered. That, said Admiral Thorne, is humanity's unspoken truth. Galactic Council panics. The Unspoken Truth of Humanity's Silence Part 3, The Awakening. The Council Chamber's tactical displays struggled to render what was appearing in Earth orbit. It wasn't a fleet in any conventional sense, it was as if space itself was folding, revealing structures that had always been there but remained unseen. The Architects called it the Aegis, Fleet Admiral Levine explained, her holographic form flickering slightly as Earth Defense Command redirected power. It's not a weapon or a shield in the way we understand those terms. It's more accurate to say it's a correction. The displays showed Earth now surrounded by a geometric pattern of light that seemed to exist in more dimensions than the eye could perceive. The pattern was expanding, creating a lattice that reached out toward the approaching Scourge fleet. What exactly is happening? High Arbiter Vostalik demanded, all 6 eyes fixed on the display. Dr. Reed answered, his voice calm despite the tension. The Architects built their technology to operate on fundamental levels of reality. The Aegis doesn't destroy the Scourge. It corrects the flaw in reality that allows them to exist. Ambassador Monroe added, this is why we couldn't tell you. The Scourge has been monitoring all Council communications for centuries. If they had known we'd discovered the Aegis, they would have struck sooner, Admiral Thorne finished, before we understood how to activate it. The chamber erupted in questions and exclamations. Vostalik raised a hand for silence. Councillor Drez, he said, his voice carrying through the chamber. You have been unusually quiet during these revelations. All eyes turned to the elderly councillor who sat motionless on his platform. For a long moment there was silence. Then, slowly, Counselor Drez stood. "The humans are correct," he said, his voice suddenly different. Hollow, resonating oddly. "I am not what I appear to be." His form shimmered, revealing something beneath the familiar exterior, something geometric and precise, with edges that seemed to cut into reality itself. "But neither are they telling the whole truth," the thing that had been Drez continued. "The architects were not benevolent guardians. They were escaping judgment." Admiral Thorne's hand moved to his sidearm, but Ambassador Monroe placed a restraining hand on his arm. "Let him speak," she said quietly. "This may be our only chance to understand." The creature's voice echoed strangely, as if coming from multiple sources simultaneously. "The architects violated the natural laws of this universe. They built technologies that should not exist, could not exist without breaking the fundamental constraints of reality. That's a philosophical position. Not a crime," Dr. Reed countered. "It is both," the creature replied. "The universe has immune systems just as your biological forms do. We are that immune response." Vostalik stepped forward, towering over the revealed infiltrator. "You've slaughtered billions, destroyed entire civilizations, all to eliminate technology?" "To eliminate infection," corrected the creature. "The architect's creations spread like a disease. They corrupt the natural order. They must be excised." Fleet Admiral Levine's hologram grew more stable. "High Arbiter, we're reaching the critical moment. The Aegis is fully deploying." On the tactical displays, the geometric pattern surrounding Earth had expanded to encompass the entire solar system. The approaching Scourge fleet had begun to fragment, individual ships breaking formation as if in confusion. "You cannot stop us," the creature that had been Drez said. "We are already everywhere. We have been among you for 1,000 years waiting, watching. The Scourge is merely our vanguard." "No," Admiral Thorne said firmly. "The Scourge is your only true form. These infiltrators, these disguises, they're just tools, sensors, extensions of your awareness." Dr. Reed nodded. "That's why you limited your attacks to the periphery all these centuries. You needed to maintain the infiltrators within the Council. You couldn't risk a full-scale assault that might prompt the development of detection methods that would expose your presence." "A fascinating theory," the creature said, "but irrelevant now. Your Aegis cannot save you. We have evolved since the architect's time." Ambassador Monroe smiled thinly. "We were counting on that." The tactical displays suddenly changed. The geometric pattern emanating from Earth pulsed once, twice, and then began to contract. "What are you doing?" the creature demanded, its voice losing its hollow quality, gaining something like fear. "The architects built the Aegis as a defensive measure," Fleet Admiral Levine explained. "But they never activated it because they realized it would destroy them too. Their technology violated the same laws that the Scourge was created to enforce. So they fled," Admiral Thorne continued, "hid their technology, scattered their knowledge across thousands of worlds, hoping some species would eventually find it and develop a different approach." Dr. Reed stepped forward. "Humanity did find it. And we did develop a different approach. The Aegis you're seeing isn't the original design. We modified it." "Impossible," the creature hissed. "No species could comprehend the architect's work, let alone alter it." "We didn't need to fully comprehend it," Dr. Reed said simply. "We just needed to understand its purpose and redirect it." On the displays, the contracting geometric pattern had reached the Scourge fleet. Where it touched their ships, they didn't explode or disintegrate. They simply ceased to be, as if they had never existed at all. "The original Aegis would have erased all violations of natural law," Fleet Admiral Levine explained, "including most of the Council's technology, which was built on architect principles you've never recognized. Our modified version targets only the specific frequency of the Scourge's existence." The creature that had been Drez began to flicker, its form becoming unstable. "You've doomed yourselves," it said, its voice fading. "We are the universe's correction. Without us, the infection will spread unchecked." "Perhaps," Ambassador Monroe said softly, "but that will be our choice. Our responsibility, not yours." The creature gave one final, silent scream, a distortion of reality rather than sound, and then vanished, leaving only the empty robes of Counselor Drez. Throughout the chamber, a dozen other representatives similarly flickered and disappeared, their disguises failing as the modified Aegis reached out across space. On the tactical displays, the Scourge fleet had completely vanished. The geometric pattern continued to expand, now reaching far beyond the solar system, sweeping through council space like a wave. "What happens now?" Vostalik asked, his voice subdued. Admiral Thorne's expression remained grave. "Now comes the hard part, High Arbiter. Now we tell the galaxy the truth about its history, about the architects, about the technology your civilization has been using without understanding its origins or implications." Ambassador Monroe nodded. "And we offer our help in developing a new path forward, one that respects the natural laws the Scourge was created to protect, while preserving the advancements that have built your civilization." "And if we refuse?" Vostalik asked. Fleet Admiral Levine's hologram leaned forward. "Then humanity will stand alone, as we have always been prepared to do. But I don't think you will refuse, High Arbiter." "Why not?" "Because," Dr. Reed said quietly, "the Aegis didn't just remove the Scourge. It exposed the truth. And now that your people have glimpsed it, they will never be satisfied with silence again." Throughout the chamber, the representatives of 5,000 worlds looked at each other with new eyes, the foundations of their shared history suddenly uncertain. "The unspoken truth of humanity's silence," Vostalik murmured. "You were never afraid of the Scourge. You were afraid of us, of how we would react when we learned what our civilization was built upon." "Not afraid," corrected Admiral Thorne. "Cautious. There's a difference." Outside the council chamber, beyond the tactical displays and political concerns, the modified Aegis continued its expansion, a wave of correction sweeping through the galaxy, removing the Scourge while preserving everything else. A new era had begun, not with a bang, but with the end of an ancient silence. Galactic Council Panics: The Unspoken Truth of Humanity's Silence Part 4. The Reconciliation. 3 days after the activation of the modified Aegis, the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had been transformed. Where once representatives sat in rigid hierarchical arrangements, now they gathered in concentric circles, with Earth's delegation positioned not at the center, but simply as one voice among many. Admiral Thorne stood before the assembled representatives, the weariness in his eyes betraying the sleepless night since the revelation. "The modified Aegis has completed its primary function," he reported. "All detected Scourge entities have been removed from our reality. Their ships, their infiltrators, their hidden bases, all gone." High Arbiter Vostalik, who had remained in his position despite calls for his resignation, nodded gravely. "And the cost?" Admiral Thorne didn't flinch. 17 worlds have reported technological failures as the Aegis passed through their systems. Critical infrastructure built directly on unmodified architect technology has ceased functioning. Murmurs spread through the chamber. 17 worlds represented billions of lives suddenly thrust into crisis. Earth has already dispatched humanitarian and technical assistance to the affected systems, Ambassador Monroe added, stepping forward to join Admiral Thorne. "But we must be honest, some of the lost technologies may be irreplaceable. Because replacing them would risk bringing back the Scourge," Dr. Reed explained. "The modified Aegis didn't destroy the Scourge. It removed the flaw in reality that allowed them to exist. If we rebuild using the same principles, we risk creating that flaw again." Vostalik's upper eyes narrowed. "So the Council must abandon technologies that have formed the foundation of our civilization for millennia." "Not abandon," corrected a new voice. Olivia Way, Earth's leading quantum engineer, had joined the delegation overnight, arriving through one of the few remaining stable hyperspace corridors. "Evolve." She activated a holographic display that hovered in the center of the chamber. It showed schematics unlike any the Council engineers had seen before. "Humanity didn't just modify the Aegis," Way explained. "We've spent decades developing alternative approaches to the technologies you derived from architect ruins. Approaches that work with the natural laws of our universe instead of circumventing them." The display shifted, showing comparison diagrams of Council technology alongside Earth's alternatives. "Your faster-than-light drives punch holes in space-time," Way continued. "Ours fold it temporarily. Your quantum communicators force entanglement. Ours nurture it. Your energy systems harvest vacuum fluctuations. Ours channel existing cosmic energy flows." "The differences seem semantic," said Counselor Tyrell, who had taken the position of the removed infiltrator. "The differences are fundamental," Way replied. The architects sought to overcome the universe's limitations. Humanity has chosen to work within them. High Arbiter Vostalik studied the schematics carefully. Even if these alternatives work as you claim, implementing them across thousands of worlds would take centuries. Not necessarily, Admiral Thorne said. The modified Aegis is still active, though dormant. It could be repurposed. This caused an immediate uproar in the chamber. Vostalik raised his hands for silence. Explain, he demanded. Dr. Reed stepped forward. The Aegis operates on the most fundamental level of reality. It recognized and removed the scourge based on their violation of natural law. With recalibration, it could theoretically be used to guide the transition of existing technologies into forms that align with those same natural laws. You're suggesting we allow this human weapon to transform the technological foundation of our entire civilization? Counselor Tyrell asked incredulously. It's not a weapon, Ambassador Monroe said firmly. It's a tool. And yes, that's exactly what we're suggesting. Why should we trust you with such power? Vostalik challenged. Humanity hid the truth for years. You developed the modified Aegis in secret. You activated it without council authorization. Admiral Thorne's weathered face showed no emotion. We're not asking you to trust us with the power, High Arbiter. We're offering to share it. The chamber fell silent. The modified Aegis responds to a specific quantum signature, explained Engineer Wei. Currently, that signature is keyed to Earth Command. We propose creating a new signature, one that requires simultaneous authorization from Earth and the Council. Joint control, Ambassador Monroe clarified. Equal responsibility. And equal vulnerability, Admiral Thorne added quietly. If the recalibration fails, Earth's technology would be affected just as severely as the Council's. High Arbiter Vostalik studied the humans carefully. You would risk your own civilization to help preserve ours? We're already at risk, Dr. Reed said simply. The moment we activated the Aegis, we accepted that there's no going back. The scourge may be gone, but the laws they were created to enforce remain. Either we all find a way forward that respects those laws, or we all face the consequences of ignoring them. Vostalik turned to address the chamber. Representatives of the Council, we face a decision unlike any in our history. Do we accept humanity's offer? Do we entrust our future to a partnership with a species that until days ago we suspected of collusion with our greatest enemy? From the Taurian section, a representative rose. Her people had suffered the greatest losses to the scourge, including the destruction of Meridian 4. My world is dead, she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. Billions of my people are gone, and now I learn that the council I trusted has been infiltrated for a millennium by the very enemy that killed them. She turned to face the Earth delegation directly. Humanity kept secrets, yes, but those secrets protected the one weapon that could end the scourge. Had they shared it earlier, before they understood how to modify it, we might all have been erased along with our enemy. Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. I vote to accept their offer, the Taurian representative concluded, not out of trust but out of necessity, and perhaps in time trust will follow. One by one, other representatives rose to speak. Some expressed doubt, others anger at the deception, but as the hours passed, a consensus began to emerge. The council had been built on architect technology without understanding its implications. Now they had a chance to rebuild with full awareness and new partners. Finally, High Arbiter Vostalik called for a formal vote. The result was not unanimous, but it was decisive. The council accepts humanity's offer of partnership, he announced. We will proceed with the recalibration of the Aegis under joint control. Admiral Thorne nodded, the faintest hint of relief showing in his eyes. The recalibration process will take approximately 7 standard days to prepare. During that time, we recommend all worlds secure critical systems and prepare contingencies. And afterward? Asked Counselor Tyrell. What role will Earth play in the Council going forward? Ambassador Monroe smiled slightly. That depends on the Council. Earth has maintained its independence since first contact. We've developed our own path, our own technologies, our own perspective. Perhaps now those differences will be seen as valuable rather than suspicious. Perhaps, Vostalik agreed. But integration will not be simple. Your revelations have shaken the very foundation of our society. Good, said Dr. Reed unexpectedly. Foundations should be examined regularly, High Arbiter. Otherwise, you never know what might be growing beneath them. The meeting continued long into the night, with technical details and diplomatic protocols established for the joint operation of the Aegis. But as the representatives filed out of the chamber, a sense of cautious hope had replaced the panic of days before. Outside, in the gardens surrounding the council complex, Admiral Thorne stood alone, looking up at the unfamiliar stars of the council homeworld. Ambassador Monroe found him there, offering a cup of earth coffee, a small comfort brought from home. "It worked," she said simply. "Phase 1 worked," Thorne corrected, accepting the coffee. "We've got a long way to go. Do you think they'll ever fully trust us again?" Thorne considered the question. "Trust isn't the goal, Eliza. Understanding is. They needed to understand what they've been building their civilization on all these millennia, and we needed to understand that we couldn't face this alone." "The silence is broken," she murmured. "Yes," Thorne agreed, looking back up at the stars. "Now we get to find out if what replaces it is better or worse." In the distance, the lights of the council city shimmered while in orbit above. Earthships and council vessels began the delicate dance of cooperation that would either forge a new era or end in catastrophe. The unspoken truth had been revealed. The real work was just beginning. Galactic Council panics. The Unspoken Truth of Humanity's Silence Part 5. The evolution 5 years after the Aegis recalibration, the Galactic Council convened in a chamber that bore little resemblance to its predecessor. Gone were the hierarchical platforms and the obsidian floor that swallowed light. In their place stood a circular space where representatives gathered as equals. The floor beneath them a living mosaic that shifted with patterns representing the flow of cosmic energy throughout the galaxy. Admiral Thorne, now Ambassador. Thorne entered alongside Dr. Reed and Engineer Way. Ambassador. Monroe had returned to Earth years ago, now serving as Earth's Secretary of Interstellar Relations. High Arbiter Vostalik greeted them at the entrance, a gesture that would have been unthinkable in the old Council protocol. "The final reports have been submitted," he said without preamble. "The recalibration is complete," Thorne nodded. 5 years of careful work, of targeted adjustments to technology across thousands of worlds, 5 years of crisis management, of diplomatic tension, of scientific breakthrough and occasional setback. "Any complications in the outer systems?" Dr. Reed asked as they walked toward the center of the chamber. "Minor fluctuations in the Cygnus arm," Vostalik replied. "The local engineers implemented the backup protocols you developed. Minimal disruption." They reached the center of the chamber where a holographic display showed the galaxy in real time, with flowing lines of light representing the modified Aegis as it completed its final sweep through the farthest reaches of Council space. "Hard to believe it's finally done," Engineer Way said softly. "Is it?" Counselor Terrell approached, her expression skeptical. "The technological transition may be complete, but the societal one has barely begun." "True enough," Thorne acknowledged. "Some worlds have embraced the new paradigm more readily than others. Some still blame Earth for the disruption," Terrell added pointedly. "That was always expected," Dr. Reed said. "Change at this scale never comes without resistance." The chamber began to fill as representatives from across the galaxy took their places. The formal session would begin soon, a ceremony to mark the completion of the recalibration and the beginning of what many were calling the new accord. "There's something we need to discuss before the session begins," Vostalik said, guiding them to a private alcove away from the gathering crowd. Once they were alone, his demeanor changed, all 6 eyes focusing intently on Thorne. "We've detected something," he said, his voice low. "At the edge of the Sagittarius Void." Thorne felt a chill run down his spine. The void was a region avoided by all Council ships, a vast emptiness where stars seemed to have been removed. "What kind of something?" Engineer Way asked. Vostalik activated a small holographic projector. It showed sensor readings from a scout ship, energy patterns unlike anything they had seen before. "Not the Scourge," Dr. Reed said immediately, studying the patterns. "Different frequency entirely." "No," Vostalik agreed. "Not the Scourge, but definitely not natural." Thorne studied the readings carefully. "When was this detected?" 3 days ago. We've been monitoring it since then. The pattern is growing stronger." "Why bring this to us privately?" Thorne asked, though he suspected he knew the answer. Vostitalik's upper eyes narrowed slightly. because the pattern bears certain similarities to the quantum signature of the original Aegis, not the modified version, the original architect. Design. The implication hung in the air between them. You think the architects are returning, Dr. Reed said. Not a question, but a statement, I think. Vostalik replied carefully, that removing the scourge may have had consequences we did not anticipate. Engineer Wei leaned closer to the holographic data. The scourge was created to enforce natural law, to prevent the architect's violations from spreading. With the scourge gone, there's nothing to stop the architects from returning, Thorne finished grimly. If they still exist, Dr. Reed cautioned, this could be something else entirely. Vostalik deactivated the projector. Whatever it is, the Council's official position is that we know nothing about it. Not yet, not until we understand what we're facing. Thorne raised an eyebrow. Secrets, High Arbiter? After all the talk of transparency and partnership? Prudence, Vostalik corrected. We've just completed a galaxy-wide technological transition. Societies are still adapting. Economies are still stabilizing. If word spreads that something potentially worse than the scourge is emerging, panic. Dr. Reed nodded. I understand the concern. But we can't ignore this, Engineer Wei insisted. If it is related to the architects, we won't ignore it, Vostalik assured her. A joint research team is being assembled. Top scientists from Earth and the Council. They'll investigate while we maintain public focus on the new accord. Thorne studied the High Arbiter carefully. 5 years ago he would have suspected deception, manipulation. Now he recognized the genuine concern in those alien eyes. I'll need to inform Earth Command, he said. Of course, Vostalik agreed, but discreetly. A chime sounded, signaling that the formal session was about to begin. We should return, the High Arbiter said. History awaits. They rejoined the main chamber just as the ceremonial lights dimmed and a hush fell over the assembled representatives. At the center of the chamber, a pedestal rose from the floor, bearing a crystal sphere that pulsed with inner light, a physical manifestation of the joint control mechanism for the modified Aegis. High Arbiter Vostalik took his position beside it. Thorne stepped up to join him, as the senior Earth representative present. Representatives of the Galactic Council, Vostalik began, his voice carrying to every corner of the vast space. 5 years ago, our civilization faced its greatest crisis. The enemy we had feared for a millennium was revealed to be something far different than we had believed. The foundation of our society was exposed as built upon technologies we did not truly understand. Murmurs of acknowledgement rippled through the chamber. In that moment of crisis, Vostalik continued, humanity offered not conquest, not abandonment, but partnership. They shared the means to remove the scourge not by destruction, but by correction. They offered a new path forward, one that respected the natural laws of our universe while preserving the advancement of all our civilizations. He gestured to Thorne, who stepped forward. The journey has not been easy, Thorne acknowledged. There have been hardships, setbacks, and sacrifices. 17 worlds suffered critical failures in the initial phase. Hundreds more endured significant disruptions during the transition. But together we persevered. The holographic display at the center of the chamber expanded, showing the galaxy with new clarity. The flowing lines of the modified Aegis now fully integrated with the natural energy patterns of space itself. Today, Thorne continued, we mark the completion of the technological recalibration. All Council worlds and Earth colonies now operate with systems that work in harmony with natural law, rather than in opposition to it. Engineer Wei stepped forward, joining them at the pedestal. The modified Aegis has been fully integrated with the cosmic energy flows of our galaxy, she explained, gesturing to the display. It no longer requires active control or maintenance. It has become a self-sustaining aspect of reality itself, a correction that will persist without our intervention. She placed her hand on the crystal sphere, which pulsed in response. With this final act, she said, we release the control protocols. The Aegis is no longer a tool to be wielded, but a principle to be honored. Vostalik placed his hand beside hers on the sphere. In recognition of this moment, he announced, the Council unanimously voted yesterday to extend full membership to Earth and its colonies, with all rights and responsibilities therein. This was met with applause from most representatives, though Thorne noted a few sections remained pointedly silent. Ambassador Thorne, Vostalik said formally. Does Earth accept this offer of membership? Thorn had received the authorization from Earth's governing council hours earlier, but still he paused, aware of the weight of the moment. Earth accepts, he said finally, not as conquerors or saviors, but as partners in the great work that lies ahead. The crystal sphere between their hands pulsed once more, then dimmed as the control protocols dissipated. The modified Aegis would continue its function, but no longer under direct control, a safeguard that had become a natural feature of the galaxy itself. As the formal ceremony continued, Thorn's thoughts returned to the disturbing sensor readings from the Sagittarius void. If the architects were returning, or if something worse was emerging, would this new galactic civilization be ready? The technology had been transformed, but had they truly changed enough themselves? Later, as the representatives mingled in the celebration that followed the ceremony, Dr. Reed found Thorn standing alone near a viewport, looking out at the stars. You're thinking about the void, she said quietly. Thorn nodded. If something is coming, Maya, I'm not sure we're ready. We weren't ready for the scourge either, she reminded him. But we adapted. We survived. We even thrived. This could be different. Dr. Reed smiled slightly. Everything is always different, James. That's the point. 5 years ago, we broke our silence and told the galaxy the truth. Whatever comes next, we'll face it the same way, together, and with open eyes. Thorn wasn't entirely convinced, but he appreciated her optimism. I hope you're right. Besides, she added, dear,